Good morning. I'm Brent Adams checking in with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Thursday, January 25th. Leading off the headlines this morning, new technology could allow farmers to play a major role in production of sustainable aviation fuel. Here with the details is USDA Radio's Gary Crawford.
What was at one time conceived to be impossible now has been proved on this location today as possible.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack in Soberton, Georgia, Wednesday, attending the opening ceremonies for the LanzaJet Freedom Pines Fuels facility, the first such plant in the world that can take ethanol and turn it into sustainable aviation fuel, which, Secretary Vilsack says, the aviation industry certainly wants and needs.
At the end of the day, if we're really to mitigate the consequences of a changing climate, the transportation sector clearly has to get to a net zero future. In order for it to get to a net zero future, aviation has to get there as well. And it can't get there without a sustainable aviation fuel. So this is a day to celebrate a very significant step forward.
A step forward, he says, not just for the aviation industry, but for farmers who will be supplying the feedstock for what could be a huge and growing demand for ethanol.
Well, new breakthroughs in sustainable aviation fuel production technology could bring new hope for struggling farmers and rural communities.
Each year, an alarming number of farms and rural businesses go out of business, but
this project, this industry, provides a ray of hope to reverse that trend.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, the project and industry he's talking about is the conversion of ethanol into sustainable aviation fuel. He was in Soberton, Georgia, Wednesday for the grand opening of
the world's first ethanol to sustainable aviation fuels plant.
Meg Whitty, vice president of the LanzaJet company, the company that built the facility. Tom Vilsack says if things go as planned, there could be plants like this all across the country generating a lot of demand for the feedstock to make the ethanol.
There need to be and ought to be multiple feedstocks in order for this market opportunity to be available all over the United States, not just in one or two regions of the country.
Vilsack says the sustainable aviation fuel industry could bring new jobs for rural residents, new markets for farmers.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack with his personal take on why developing the sustainable aviation fuels industry is important.
It's not just about an industry, a new industry, as important as it is. It's not just, Dave, about the environment and taking on that climate change, as globally important as it is. For me, in the position I have, the experiences I've had in representing farmers and understanding them, this is about creating the opportunity for folks to do what they love to do and to pass it on to the next generation. And in doing so, preserve and protect a value system that's critically important to our national security and to our very essence.
Well, in today's Farm Bill Watch, partisan disputes that kept ag lawmakers from realizing a new farm bill last year are showing up again in a tug of war between feeding and farm programs. It's still a fixed pot of farm bill money, so the age-old farm versus nutrition program fight continues, only more intensely. Ag Republicans and farm groups want more dollars to boost ARC and PLC support triggers, and Democrats want to protect feeding and climate dollars. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, in a Senate hallway interview, was asked about Ag Chair Debbie Stabenow's plan to boost crop insurance at the expense of ARC and PLC.
We need more farm in the farm bill, bottom line. All this little shell game stuff, we've got to stop this. The SNAP program has exploded, and we can't continue on a path like this.
SNAP and other nutrition programs comprise some 82% of the farm bill. Ag Republicans argue Stabenow and Democrats must return food stamp funding to pre-pandemic levels.
And I hope she understands that, and that we've got to be serious about coming back to the table and negotiating what's in the bill.
But Stabenow recently told us the same about the other side.
We can get this done if people are serious. If people are serious about it, I'm serious about it.
So the finger pointing continues. The old farm law lapsed in September with its outdated crop supports extended 1 year. But the clock is ticking as other disputes over spending bills, foreign military aid, border security, and taxes eat up precious floor time before the party conventions this summer and fall election campaigning. Well, the USDA's monthly chicken and eggs report released this week shows December egg production increased 3%. United States egg production totaled 9.45 billion during December 2023. Production included 8.14 billion table eggs and 1.31 billion hatching eggs, of which 1.21 billion were broiler type and 97 million were egg type. The total number of layers during December 2023 averaged 384 million, up 2% from last year. December egg production per 100 layers was 2,462 eggs, up 1% from December 2022. All layers in the United States on January 1st, 2024 totaled 379 million, up 1% from last year. The 379 million layers consisted of 312 million layers producing table or market type eggs, 63.6 million layers producing broiler type hatching eggs, and 3.83 million layers producing egg type hatching eggs. Rate of lay per day on January 1st, 2024 averaged 79.3 eggs per 100 layers, up 2% from January 1st, 2023. Well, delegates of the American Farm Bureau Federation adopted policy to support the continued inclusion of AM radio in vehicles. Farm Bureau Tuesday set the 2024 policy direction for the organization at the conclusion of the 2024 Farm Bureau Annual Convention in Salt Lake City, Utah. Sam Kiefer, American Farm Bureau Federation Vice President of Public Policy, says the AM radio resolution stems from rural residents making their voice heard.
We've got state farm bureaus all across the country, and each one of those state farm bureaus has several county farm bureaus. Some of them have hundreds, and that's really where our grassroots policy process starts. And when our members across the country see an issue that needs to be resolved or needs attention, they get engaged and not only identify the problem, but propose a solution. What our delegates here in Salt Lake City approved this week was language that gives us firm footing and supporting legislation that would make sure that AM radio stays in automobiles as they are manufactured.
Kiefer says Farm Bureau delegates understand the importance of AM radio as a means to stay informed and to provide safety during severe weather events.
Well, our folks have long relied on communications of every means to stay informed. Agriculture is done where the land is, and a lot of our members who live in rural areas, some of which are very remote, FM is certainly not as reliable. Sometimes cell phone service isn't even available. Usually AM is, and it's a great opportunity for them to stay abreast of very important things like weather and news, and keeps them connected. In many ways, a safety issue. You might think of tornadoes or hurricanes or things of that nature, and it's a great opportunity to stay informed, particularly when there's no FM or cell phone service available.
Adopting the policy gives the American Farm Bureau Federation policy team the power to advocate with lawmakers on the issue.
Vehicle manufacturers have heard from the rural communities and agriculture in general and have made adjustments. But the adoption of this policy language means that we can get behind members of Congress who want to make sure that these communications capabilities and mechanisms are not restricted moving forward, either by government edict or by manufacturing trends. Again, what we've seen is some of the manufacturers have reacted and responded, and we want to make sure that it remains a priority.
Kiefer says this is just another way for Farm Bureau to support rural families.
Farm Bureau is a big tent organization, and if it's important to rural communities, it's important to us. And we appreciate the opportunity to work with all who have a vested interest in rural America, and this is just another example of that.
And that's Sam Kiefer, American Farm Bureau Federation Vice President of Public Policy. And finally this morning, tax season is underway and resources are available for landowners with timber on their property that perhaps falls into a tax category. Here with more is USDA Radio's Rod Bain.
Landowners, have forest on your acreage? Perhaps you sell timber from that land or own timberland for investment-only purposes. Then you need to consider tax planning, especially with April 15th approaching faster than we may think. That according to Greg Fry of the U.S. Forest Service. Among the resources available to timber landowners,
we've recently published the tax tips for 2023, which is a really brief overview of some of the main provisions in tax law that affect many forest landowners.
That can be found at www.timbertax.org, a Forest Service collaboration with 2 Southern Land Grant universities. He adds having a tax professional with expertise in timberland tax planning is essential. One way to locate a tax expert close by is
if you contact your cooperative extension agent, they may be able to point you in the direction of a tax advisor in your area that can work with you.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
You can keep up with the latest from the world of agriculture by subscribing to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station, found at ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day, we bring you our award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go while you're working on the farm or ranch. Let's get through the workday together. Well, I'll be back again tomorrow with another Rural Strong Morning Ag Report here on Steve Shetler Media. Make it a great day, everybody.